Hey there! Get ready to dive deep as we unpack this idea of honoring parents. We've got a fascinating text called Honor Your Parents.
Okay.
It's based on Ephesians 6.1 through 3, and it's going to take us on quite a journey. Think touching stories, some ancient language analysis,
It
and
is.
even a presidential connection with George Washington. It's
Wow.
amazing how a concept we think we know, right,
I-
can reveal so much depth when you really look
It
closely.
really can.
And this text starts by really breaking down two words, honor and obey. It actually digs into the original Greek and Hebrew, which I found super interesting.
Word origins can really unlock new layers of meaning. What did you discover?
Well, the Greek word for obey, hupakuo, literally means to listen under. It's not just about following orders.
To listen under suggests something more thoughtful, more like
Yeah.
really trying to understand the perspective of the person you're listening to.
Exactly. And the text emphasizes this specifically for us as adult children. It's like it acknowledges that things change as we grow up. Our relationship with our parents becomes less about, just doing what we're told
Right.
and more about respectful consideration of their opinions, even when we disagree, before we charge ahead with our own.
That's a really important point because it honors both the wisdom and experience of parents and the independent thought of adult children.
Right. It's not about blind obedience, but about honoring the relationship by truly listening.
Hmm?
The text uses the biblical story of Joseph to illustrate this. Even though obeying his father led to some serious hardship for him,
Yeah.
it ultimately played a key role in God's plan.
It makes you think about how sometimes honoring our parents might not lead to like immediate comfort or ease,
Right.
but it can contribute to a larger purpose that we might not fully grasp at the time.
Absolutely. Now, the text also dives into the Hebrew word for honor, which is kabed. And get this, it literally means to be heavy.
To be heavy, that's a fascinating way to describe honor.
I know.
It implies treating someone with like weight and importance, like their presence carries significance.
Exactly. You don't treat something heavy lightly, right?
Right.
And here's the kicker. The Bible only uses this specific word, kabed, for honoring God and parents. Nowhere else.
That choice of language is really striking.
Yeah.
By using the same word for both, like, it's creating a direct link, almost elevating the act of honoring parents to, a divine level.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that was intentional on the part of the writers to emphasize just how seriously they viewed this responsibility.
It really makes you think, right?
Yeah.
And the text takes this idea even further by connecting it to the concept of parents being God's representatives here on earth. There's even a reference to Martin Luther,
Okay.
who viewed honoring parents as an extension of honoring God himself.
Wow. So it's not just about honoring individuals, but recognizing the divine connection woven into these relationships.
Right. And that leads perfectly into the text's explanation of the profound depth of parental love.
It's a powerful force, isn't it? The text actually compares it to God's love, using a really powerful analogy, a mother willing to sacrifice her own eye for her son.
This story is incredible. There was this mother who donated one of her eyes to her son after he lost both of his in an accident. She wanted him to have both eyes, even if it meant sacrificing her own sight. I mean, can you imagine that level of selflessness?
It's a truly remarkable example of unconditional love, going above and beyond any rational calculation. It speaks to a primal instinct to protect and nurture our children, even at great personal cost.
And the text connects this back to God's love, how he sacrificed Jesus for humanity's salvation. It's like parental love in its purest form gives us a little glimpse into that immense, immeasurable love God has for us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It suggests that even in the imperfect love we experience from our parents, there's a reflection of something much greater, something truly divine.
So we've seen how the text defines honor and obey, connecting it to this profound idea of parental love as a reflection of God's love.
No.
But it doesn't shy away from the potential consequences of disrespect, which honestly is a little jarring to read about.
Let's unpack that a bit. What did you find unsettling?
Well, the text brings up the Old Testament law, and you're right. It's pretty intense. There were like extremely harsh consequences for striking or cursing your parents.
Yeah. It's almost hard to believe how seriously they took it back then,
Yeah.
right? But it makes you wonder if maybe we've swung too far in the other direction today.
It definitely highlights a significant shift in societal values over time. But, even with those strict laws, the text also offers this beautiful counterpoint, a story of forgiveness and redemption. Have you ever experienced the power of forgiveness, either giving or receiving it, in a family relationship?
That's such a good question. And it makes me think of that parable in the text, the story of the prodigal son, right? Exactly. Here's the son who completely disrespects his father, squanders his inheritance, and abandons his family.
Yeah.
Yet when he finally comes crawling back, his father welcomes him with open arms, no questions asked.
It's such a powerful image of unconditional love and forgiveness. It's like no matter how badly we mess up, there's always a path back to that loving relationship.
It makes you wonder if maybe that's part of honoring our parents, too. Choosing to forgive even when it's hard. Because ultimately, forgiveness benefits everyone involved.
You know, the text also explores this other story, one that I hadn't really thought about much before, about covering our parents' faults.
You're talking about the story of Noah and his sons from Genesis 9, right? The one where Noah gets drunk and passes out naked.
Yes. His son, Ham, sees him and goes and tells his brothers. But Shem and Japheth, they take a garment and walk backward into the tent to cover their father, being careful not to look at him.
It's interesting, isn't it? Ham focuses on exposing his father's weakness, while his brothers choose to protect his dignity, even in a vulnerable moment. Some scholars argue that the story is more about the power dynamics between the brothers than about honoring parents. What do you think?
That's a really interesting perspective. I'd never considered it that way before. And the consequences are pretty wild, too. Ham's descendants are cursed, while Shem and Japheth receive blessings.
It definitely raises some questions about how we choose to address our parents' shortcomings. Is it about blindly defending them, or is it about approaching those situations with a sense of compassion and understanding? And how does that tie into this idea of honoring them?
That's a tough one. The text also points out that honoring parents is different from other commandments. It's time sensitive. We can't honor them in the same way once they're gone.
That's such a powerful point. It's almost like we're given this window of opportunity to express our love and appreciation while we still can.
It makes me think of that Korean poet, Park In-ro, and his poem, Ode to Red Persimmons. He talks about seeing these beautiful persimmons and wishing he could share them with his parents. But they've already passed away.
Oh, wow.
It's heartbreaking.
It's a poignant reminder that our time with our parents is precious. We often get so caught up in our own lives that we forget how quickly that time can slip away.
And I think that's part of why honoring parents is a commandment, while loving our children isn't. Loving our kids comes naturally, it's an instinct. But honoring our parents, that often takes more effort. It's a conscious choice to prioritize their well-being and show them respect, even when it's challenging. What do you think?
I agree. And because it does require that extra effort, there's a special promise attached to this particular commandment, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you.
It's the only commandment in the Bible with that kind of explicit promise of blessing.
John Calvin, the theologian, believed this was a unique blessing, something specifically given to those who honored their parents. It's almost like this spiritual principle that by honoring those who came before us, we're setting ourselves up for blessings in our own lives.
And that brings us to this last story in the text, the one about George Washington. You know, it always amazes me how he chose to honor his mother, even though it meant giving up his own ambitions.
That's a story that really resonates, isn't it? He had this dream of sailing the world. He'd even gotten a job with the shipping company and was ready to set sail.
But right before he was set to leave, he went to say goodbye to his mother, and she was devastated at the thought of him going.
It must have been an incredibly difficult decision for him. On one hand, the allure of adventure, the pursuit of his dreams. On the other, the deep love and respect he had for his mother.
And in the end, he chose to stay. He gave up his dreams of sailing the world to care for his grieving mother. It's like he understood that honoring her was more important than anything else.
His mother told him, "Honor thy parents and you will be blessed." And it's interesting because, in a way, Washington's life really reflects that belief.
Yeah.
He might not have become a sailor, but he achieved something far greater. He became the first president of the United States.
It makes you wonder if maybe his choice to honor his mother set him on a path that led to even greater things than he could have imagined.
It's a powerful example of how honoring our parents isn't just about, following rules or fulfilling obligations. It's about embodying a spirit of gratitude and respect, which can ripple out into all areas of our lives.
It really is. But it makes me wonder, how do we apply this principle of honoring parents today, especially with, the complexities of modern family dynamics? Not everyone has that that picture-perfect relationship with their parents, you know?
You're absolutely right. And the text acknowledges that. It doesn't shy away from the reality that some relationships are strained
Right.
or even broken.
So what does it say about those situations?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of forgiveness, setting healthy boundaries, and seeking understanding, even when dealing with a difficult past.
So it's not about condoning harmful actions or allowing ourselves to be mistreated.
Exactly. Honoring our parents, even in challenging situations, is about recognizing the role they played in our lives, both the good and the bad, and choosing to approach the relationship with respect and a desire for reconciliation where possible.
That makes sense. It's more nuanced than just blind obedience.
Yeah.
So if we were to step back and look at everything we've unpacked today, what would you say are the key takeaways from this deep dive into honoring parents?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is the way the text redefines our understanding of honor and obey.
Yeah.
It's not simply about following rules.
Right.
It's about cultivating a deeper respect and understanding for our parents' perspectives.
And we saw how parental love, in its purest form, can give us a glimpse into the immense love of God, connecting these earthly relationships to something much greater.
Yeah. We also explored the consequences of disrespect, learning from both ancient laws and powerful stories that highlight the importance of treating our parents with respect, even when they make mistakes.
And we can't forget that unique nature of this commandment, that it has an expiration date, urging us to honor our parents while we still have the chance.
The text suggests that there's a real blessing attached to this act of honor and respect. It's not just about doing the right thing. It's about tapping into a spiritual principle that can bring about positive changes in our own lives.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Honoring our parents might be about more than just them. It could be about becoming better versions of ourselves.
Absolutely. But I think the most important takeaway, the one that I hope you'll continue to ponder even after this deep dive, is this. How can we apply these principles of honoring parents in our own unique situations, with all the complexities of modern life and family dynamics?
It's a great question for all of us to consider. The text focuses on honoring biological parents, but how can we extend these principles to other important figures in our lives? What about mentors, grandparents, or even adoptive parents? Who are the people who have shaped you and deserve that same level of respect and appreciation?
It's a beautiful challenge, isn't it? To take these ancient principles and find ways to apply them in our modern world, creating stronger, more meaningful connections with the people who matter most. Because in the end, honoring those who came before us is about cultivating a spirit of gratitude and respect that enriches not only our relationships, but our lives as a whole.
That's a great note to end on. So until next time, keep diving deep and remember to appreciate the people who helped you get where you are today.